Rodin's life in non-conceptual details, in concrete moments, by assembling a mosaic of documentary evidence. Much of it, fortunately, concerns the neglected practical aspects of a sculptor's life, how much he was paid, and what percentage of that was profit, who cut his marbles, and how the patina was put on his bronzes. By the same token, I have written this book as much as possible without interpretation, not only because Rodin exegesis is a well-covered field, but because I share the sculptor's distrust of writers presuming to analyze the meaning of his work. I have dedicated this book to the memory of Edgar Varèse, my own mentor and maître, who provided the original impulse for it many years ago. Varèse, who had once been Rodin's protégé, gave me a sweeping view of the whole epoch. When he was 70 and I was 25, he used to invite me for Audiobook in Greenwich Village and tell me what Debussy had told him about Mallarmé's Tuesdays. Perhaps this book should also be dedicated to the memory of Truman H. Bartlett, the forgotten American sculptor whose 1889 essay on Rodin remains the most valuable single source of information about the first half of the artist's life. Though Bartlett was an admirer of Rodin, he was not overawed by him, as was almost everyone else. He conducted his interviews, moreover, with an intuitive Yankee concern for hard fact, at a time when Rodin still remembered his early years in vivid detail. Afterward he reported what Rodin had told him without the cloying sentiment and fanciful elaboration that prompted later biographers to turn the Father Aymar episode, for example, into a kind of pious idyll. Only slightly less essential to the pragmatic biographer are the two Rodin books, both equally scarce, which the English expatriate Frederic Lawton wrote just after the turn of the century. Altogether, I consulted more than 1,500 sources during my research in France, Britain, the United States, Germany, and Spain, and originally I hoped to include all of them in the bibliography, but it would have made the book impossibly bulky and expensive. I have cut the list down to just those sources from which I have actually quoted, and a selection of other significant works of reference. In the matter of illustrations, I have followed Rodin's maxim that drawings are always more intelligent than photographic reproductions. He was very conscious of the problem of depicting three-dimensional sculpture on a two-dimensional page, and although he was not averse to using photographs to publicize his work, he much preferred to see it reproduced by means of line drawings, wood engravings, etc. Accordingly, I have used prints and reproductions that appeared, usually with Rodin's sanction, in books and magazines during his lifetime. To emphasize the fact that this is a biography and not a monograph, and to convey the atmosphere of the epoch, I have also included a good deal of illustrative material that is not by Rodin, but representative of his artistic environment. The sources of quotations will be found starting on page 637, where all citations are identified by page and line number. The acknowledgements begin on page 705, and it is no exaggeration to say that without the help of the people listed there, especially those in the first paragraph, this book could not have been written. Hence they too have a share in the dedication. Dea, Mallorca, July 1987. Chapter 1. The Need to Touch. La sculpture et le besoin de toucher. Paul Claudel, Position et Proposition. 1840 is notable as a vintage year in the French arts, since it produced not only Rodin and Redon, but also Monet, Daudet, and Émile Zola. Though each of them was to make his name in Paris, the capital of the 19th century, only Monet and Rodin were born there, and only the latter actually grew up in the city. With a population of nearly 1 million, Paris was then the largest city on the continent, though still only half the size of London. The majority of its inhabitants were not native-born Parisians, but had, like Rodin's parents, come from the provinces in search of a living. These migrants had helped swell the city's population from 546,856 in the census year 1801 to 935,361 in 1841.